It is 3 p.m. in New York City. In Los Angeles, it's high noon.
It's actually 19 minutes
after. And from
after.
our broadcast nerve center in St. Francis, Wisconsin, it is 2 p.m.
It's 2:19.
Brace yourselves. Broadcasting live on Spreaker Web Radio, it's time for your midday
Hot Cheddar Injection.
Hot, melty, cheesy news, music, politics, and commentary, and your cheesy phone calls at 414-501-4003. Now, here's your cheesy cheesemeister, Bill Schmulfeld.
You see, the biggest problem I face in doing a live radio show, other than being technically incompetent, is that I am an idiot. Spreaker has done so much to improve their live broadcasting capabilities on their platform. They really, really have. I used to use them before, but there was no way really to hook up your Skype connection to it. They've made that easy now, too. And I only had to do one thing. I was doing some test broadcasting earlier, and I forgot to uncheck private before I went on the air 20 minutes ago. But we're live and we're all together now here on Hot Cheddar Injection. I don't know if I should go through that other stuff I talked about at the beginning of the show, if it was even worthwhile. But it's that day they look forward to every 4 years in the state of Iowa. It's kind of like Christmas Eve. It's the day before all the reporters pack up and go home. For the next 4 years after tonight, and then the reportage you will hear tomorrow, Iowa goes back to being just a sleepy little Midwestern state.
I can hear 'em calling hogs in the clear Iowa air.
And they generally show up when you call them.
I've got Iowa in my hair.
Yeah, it's all, see, look. Well, okay, I combed it out earlier, but we are live. This is our first episode. Actually, it's episode 1A since the false start. I got a 10-yard penalty from that. And to touch base on some of the things we're going to talk about today, Sarah Palin is very, very upset with the media again because they reported on something she said. What else we got? Oh, we got just a whole bunch of stuff. Trump's facing his first test today. I mean, his first real test. Right now, it's been all about crowds and entertainment and this and that and the other. But tonight, we'll find out if Trump's got the stuff to actually get people to turn out to caucus. If he does, great. If he doesn't, well, I'm not what you'd call a Trump supporter, so I'm not really concerned one way or the other about it. It almost hurts it almost makes my mouth taste bad to say this. But of all the Republican contenders still running for president, Trump would probably have the best chance of beating Hillary Clinton. Yeah. I need a sip of root beer after that. Excuse me here. Oh, yeah, that's better. Anyway, the Real Clear Politics polls here on Caucus Day in Iowa. I got the right one here? Nope, that's Democrats. Let me slide that over here. Get the one with the Republicans on it. Okay. The tribulations of doing a live radio show for which you are horribly ill-equipped. Okay, I think we've got it here. Yep, this is the Republican polls from the website realclearpolitics.com. And what they do is they sum up all the major polls and average them out. They do the thinking, so you don't have to. And in the RCP average, as of this morning, Trump is winning in Iowa by almost 5 points, which is an increase from his most recent position. Let's see. Trump's got 28.6. Cruz, 23.9. Rubio, 16.9. Ben Carson, 7.7. Rand Paul, 4.1. He's tied with Bush at 4.1. Then you got your Huckabee, your Kasich, your Fiorina, your Christie, and your Santorum. The way this looks, if the real clear politics averages hold up, Trump wins, Cruz comes in second, Rubio third. And how do you feel about that? I mean, do you think that that makes Rubio the clear choice for establishment Republicans? I mean, the race is between Trump and Cruz for the wackadoodle vote. One of them will get the wackadoodle vote, and the other will just have to go back to the Senate. But it's going to come down to a two-person race, I believe, in the Republican Party as they get closer to their convention. It's going to be the wackadoodle versus the establishment. And this year has been so crazy with its election cycle, I could see it going either way. I can see that there are enough angry people out there that the Republicans made promise after promise after promise after promise. Give us the House of Representatives and we'll get things done. Okay, give us the Senate and we'll get things done. Okay, we got the House and we've got the Senate. Give us the presidency and we'll get things done. Why? You didn't get anything done when you had the House of Representatives. You didn't get anything done when you had the Senate. All you did was obstruct everything President Obama wanted to do. Why should the American voting public turn the car keys over to people who can't reach across the aisle and work with other people? That's what I want to know. My phone number here, if you're out there listening, and by golly, I hope you will be someday, is 414-501-4003. It's just that easy. 414-501-4003. Or you can shoot me a tweet if you'd care to at Hot Cheese Shot. That's at Hot Cheese Shot. Oh, Paul. I'm talking to a very close friend of mine there, Paul Krendler. You know him as the Thinking Man Zombie. He and I pretend to hate each other, but we actually are quite fond of each other, I believe anyway. This is your midday hot cheddar injection. Here's the house band, Kevin MacLeod with Fork and Spoon. Kevin MacLeod, ladies and gentlemen, on your... Thank you for Kevin. Very first episode of your midday hot cheddar injection will continue.
Got something on your mind? An axe to grind? A bone to pick? A confession, perhaps? Get on the cheddar phone right now at 414-501-4003. Dial carefully. 414-501-4003. Now, more of your minimum daily requirement of hot, melted goodness. Your midday hot cheddar injection.
You know, when he says get on the cheddar phone, sounds like something completely different. You really got to start paying the power bill around here.
Hot cheddar.
Injection.
Here we are. Thanks for joining us. Boy, Sarah Palin, huh? Took Trump to drag her out of the Wasilla. Speaking of which, hi, Dave. And she made quite a drunken splash when she actually officially endorsed Donald Trump. Working from notes that were written on the inside of her eyelids, she went off on a rambling discourse, a word salad, if you will. My son, a combat veteran, was fighting for you all, America, in the war zone. My son, like so many others, came back a bit different. They come back hardened. She wasn't talking about his muscles. They come back wondering if there is that respect for what it is that their fellow soldiers and airmen and every other members of the military so sacrificially have given to this country. And that starts from the top. That comes from our own president. Where do they have to look at him and wonder, do you know what we go through? Do you know what we're trying to do to secure America? Oh, if there were no Sarah Palin, we'd have to invent one. But this morning, this February 1st, 2016, Iowa Caucus Day, she was a guest on the Today Show, and it started out friendly enough, but then see if you can tell where the interview takes a turn.
To the right candidate, is Donald Trump going to win Iowa? I believe that he will win Iowa. Iowa voters, too, are ready for restoration of constitutional government again, and Donald Trump is the one who can do this.
You said having Donald Trump and Ted Cruz at the top of the Republican field is a nice problem to have.
Yes.
Is it a win-win for you? If Donald Trump wins tonight, do you win? If Ted Cruz wins tonight, you've supported him in the past, do you win as well?
Well, in a sense, yes. Keeping in mind that this is just the very first step in this long, arduous process, you know, and then getting into the general. We have 10 more months before we actually know who will be our next president. So, yeah, tonight, whatever the outcome, I think the Republican Party, again, is in a fortunate position in having that good problem, good candidates at the top.
This was probably a tough call for you between Ted Cruz and Donald Trump.
It wasn't tough.
Really?
No, it wasn't tough. I had supported Ted Cruz in his run for Senate there out of Texas, and when I endorsed him, he was, you know, barely a blip on the radar screen down there in terms of in the polls and what people were perceiving, and then at the last minute being able to get in there and kind of hopefully we helped, you know, added some momentum to his campaign, and support him being there in the Senate to be a fighter for the American people, for our will. I want to keep him in the Senate, and I want Donald Trump to be our president.
You have a lot of credibility with evangelical voters, and that's one of the reasons why this endorsement meant so much to Donald Trump. Do you think that he is the godly candidate that they're looking for?
I hope voters aren't trying to find the most Christian-y, godliest candidate out there, because, you know, who are we to judge one another's level of faith, our Christian quotient, if you will. Hopefully, you know, people are looking for he who has that record of success that proves he's going to be able to get the job done for us, finally.
Is he a true conservative, though, Governor Palin? He has admitted that in the past he's donated to Democratic candidates, Republican candidates. He's donated to Hillary Clinton. How do you square that with a true conservative?
Compare him to someone like Ronald Reagan, who, too, had at one point, he was a registered Democrat even, and then he saw the light. And I say, wonderful. I am so glad that Donald Trump is on our side when it comes to the political spectrum, understanding that free markets and capitalism and restoration of our freedom is the way for America to be restored. Good. Well, we should celebrate that he has come over on the right side.
I want to ask you about something you mentioned on the campaign trail, which is the arrest of your son, Track. And you talked about it, and then you mentioned PTSD. And you said that President Obama may be to blame for some of the PTSD that's out there.
That.
Well, let's take it piece by piece. What exactly did you mean?
Let's start piece by piece by, you guys brought me here to talk about Iowa politics and the caucus tonight, not to talk about my kids. And that was a promise. But as things go in the world of media, you guys don't always keep your promises, evidently. I never blamed President Obama. What I have blamed President Obama in doing, though, is this level of disrespect for the United States military that is made manifest in gutting budgets, in not trying to beef it up and let our military do the job that they are trained to do, and in specific issues that we're talking about that are so hot today, specifically, let's get in there and let's utterly destroy ISIS, as we know our United States military can do, yet we have a commander-in-chief who seems to kind of want to kowtow and allow the enemy to be poking at us, and that's unacceptable to most Americans, certainly to me.
Do you regret the comment, though, Governor Palin, on that day of the endorsement?
What did I say that is offensive?
That you seem to
Exactly.
lay it at the feet of the president.
I don't regret any comment that I made, because I didn't lay PTSD at the foot of the president. I did say, though, that there is, and suggested very adamantly, that there is much more that our commander-in-chief can do to prove that he respects our troops and will let them do their job. But no, if you guys have a specific quote, it allows the media to be more credible if you guys will tell me exactly what you're talking about, and then I can address
In terms
that
of credibility, I just want to make sure there were no specific promises made about content of the interview, only that this would be your first interview since you endorsed Donald Trump.
Well, I was told that this interview is about the caucus tonight in Iowa, and right on, who will it be to put America back on the right track and restore constitutional government that we are lacking today and that we so need. And I said, right on, let me go talk about that. Sure.
And I think we talked about that quite.
Oh, the crowd loves her. That's Word Salad Sarah. You can't go wrong with that. This is your daily midday hot cheddar injection. I'm Bill Schmalfelt. And if you'd like to take part in the show, 414-501-4003. That's 414-501-4003. Or you can always send us a tweet at Hot Cheese Shot. It's all one word. Hot Cheese Shot. We're going to do this every day, hopefully, until such time as I wake up in the morning and find myself not breathing. Might come sooner, might come later, who knows. But glad to share this information with you here today. We've been talking about the Republicans. Let's shift our focus to the Democrats right now and the Real Clear Politics averages again. I just cannot see Bernie Sanders, even if he wins tonight in Iowa. And even though out of the two candidates, he'd be the one I'd vote for, I just can't see him sweeping the southern states or the western states. Secretary of State Clinton has had this all this time and learned all these lessons from her defeat to Barack Obama back in 2008. I don't think she wins it in a walk, but the Real Clear Politics average has her up by 4 points. I believe that is within the margin of error. So, who shall win? We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But I just don't see a clear path for Bernie Sanders all the way to Philadelphia at the convention this summer. I think he'd be an excellent president, but that's just my political point of view. Trump's going to face his first test with the voters today. And I did mention this in the part that we didn't get on the air, but I'm always kind of tickled when I can see a story in the national news with a headline, a dateline, from my little hometown in Iowa. So many wonderful little towns in Iowa. And Clinton. But oh, the blatant disrespect piled on my little hometown by the national media. On Saturday, I'm sitting there and I'm trying to feel better so I can die. Oh, this is the mother of all head colds, and I think I'm on the tail end of it now. But I'm sitting there just kind of dozing and watching and dozing. And I hear Chuck Todd say that Donald Trump is about to speak at a middle school in Clinton, Iowa. Yes, there actually is a Clinton, Iowa. There is such a place as Clinton, Iowa. And right away, I thought about getting on the phone to the mayor of Clinton, Iowa, and just suggest that a brand new town slogan has just been invented. I don't know if my hometown actually has a town slogan. It should. But there it was perfectly for the world to hear. There is such a place as Clinton, Iowa. Put that on all your city limit signs. Clinton, Iowa. Quote, there is such a place. Close quote. It was kind of disappointing to me, actually. When I was a boy, long these many years ago, we had 3 middle schools in Clinton, Iowa. We called them junior high schools back then. You had Washington Junior High, you had Gateway Junior High, and you had Lyons Junior High, and that's the one I went to. My son TJ went there as well, and he is a graduate of Clinton High School. Now there's only one middle school. It's just like they took all the church parishes and combined them into one. In Clinton, we used to have St. Irenaeus, where I used to go as a boy. We had St. Boniface, which was like 4 blocks away. We had St. Patrick's. We had Sacred Heart. We had St. Mary's. And St. Mary's also had a high school. That's 5 churches, 5 different distinct Catholic parishes in this one town on the eastern tip of Iowa. Now there's one. They're all combined into one, the Prince of Peace Parish. Some of these historic churches have been torn to the ground. I believe St. Irenaeus was spared the wrecking ball because of the historic nature of the facility. It was built in, I believe, 1858 or 48, one or the other, out of the native sandstone, limestone taken from the bluffs around the city. And it was a beautiful church. Now it's all gutted. There's nothing inside. That's a shame. But all weekend long, I'm hearing people making jokes about the fact that there is a Clinton, Iowa. We're not kidding. That's really the name of the place. There's another potential slogan. Clinton, Iowa. That really is the name of the place.
Got something on your mind? An axe to grind? A bone to pick? A confession, perhaps? Get on the Cheddar phone right now at 414-501-4003. Dial carefully. 414-501-4003. Now, more of your minimum daily requirement of hot, melted goodness. Your midday hot cheddar injection.
There's my microphone. Kevin MacLeod, ladies and gentlemen.
Hot Cheddar.
Injection.
Trump just can't seem to stay out of trouble. Yesterday it was in church, and today he gives free rein to anybody at one of his campaign rallies to violently assault people who protest. Let's take that first one about Donald Trump being a little confused at communion yesterday. He was attending services, which is something, you know, that'll come to an end as soon as the campaign's over. He was attending services at a church in Council Bluffs, Iowa yesterday, when the communion plates were passed at the non-denominational First Christian Orchard campus. By the way, I loved it when Sarah Palin says, "We want to find the most Christian-y person we can. Are you Christian-y enough, Donald Trump?" They had communion, and when they offered the plate over to Trump so he could help himself to a little wafer or whatever they had at that church, he first thought he thought it was time for the offering. So he yanked some money out of his pocket and put it in the plate. That's what I do. I pay for things. I get things done. I'll make the church great again. He apologized, though. And then he contributed later when the church passed the plates for offering. Hell, I'd have kept the money he threw in for communion, make him pay for the wafers. I'm Bill Schmalfeld. This is your hot cheddar injection for the midday. And it looks like Hillary is going to win in Iowa. Even Nate Silver of 538.com, who was kind of forecasting a Sanders win, has a story out that was yesterday, saying Hillary Clinton may win Iowa after all. There's no late surge for Sanders, it turns out, in any of the polls. And where he is coming up, he's not really getting any closer to Hillary. Now, I am nothing if not a reasonable man, and I just don't think it's going to be as easy as all that for Hillary Clinton. this whole email thing. What if she secures the nomination? What if she accepts the nomination there in Philadelphia and begins her campaign and is indicted? Well, hello there, President Trump. Man, it's scary times. Scary times. And there's a lot of talk these days about just such a thing. About there being an indictment if it turns out that a grand jury determines what she did with her emails and sending emails that were later determined to be top secret, whether or not she violated the law. Speaking of the law, Donald Trump, he's given blanket permission for his followers to physically assault people at his events. This just broke about 20 minutes ago, I believe. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump told the crowd gathered at his campaign rally in Waterloo this afternoon to knock the crap out of anyone who threw a tomato at him. You know, you can get those seeds in your eyes, and the suit, it stains. It's hard to get tomato out of them. Yeah, so if you see anybody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, Trump said at his rally. I will pay for the legal fees, I promise. And they won't be much because the courts agree with us too. So if you're a Trump fan, those are your marching orders. If you're old enough to remember history, there was a thing once called history before TV took over. If you remember the early days of the Nazi Party at rallies, if anybody spoke out against der Fuhrer, he got his ass kicked. Yep, we've already seen that. We've seen protesters being mishandled and in some cases brutalized. But here we've got the odds-on favorite to be the Republican presidential nominee, giving the order to his stormtroopers, to his brown shirts. If you see anybody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them. Why not just pass out baseball bats while you're at it? Good God. Now, if you see anybody trying to shoot them, yeah, tackle them. Tackle them to the ground. Let Secret Service do their job. But tomatoes? George Bush at least had a shoe thrown at him. That's something that could hurt. But a tomato, it'll go squash. And besides, Iowans are not known for their throwing ability. Ask Kerry Collins. No, it's just another step toward fascism. Oh, Trump, he's just not going to take nothing from nobody. He's going to fix things, and he'll tell us how later. Are you really ready to turn everything over to Donald Trump? For instance, when he says that anybody who kills a cop immediately executed. So the President of the United States is in charge of the state crime of murder? Anytime he says there's going to be no more of this when I'm president, there's not going to be any more of that when I'm president. This is the same guy who says Obama is overstepping his constitutional boundaries. I'm going to build a huge wall. It's going to be a beautiful wall. Yeah, that's what we want. Welcome to the United Fascist States of America 2016. right, we're getting ready to wrap things up here at the first episode of the Hot Cheddar Injection. But there's something we got to talk about. Leroy Finicum. Have you noticed a correlation here? The same people who say that Leroy Finicum was shot in the back and murdered by the FBI are the same people who think Trayvon Martin had it coming. These are the same people that think that every time a cop shoots an unarmed black man, that's justified. Leroy Finicum, on the run from police, gets out of his car, starts charging in one direction, puts his hands up, and then he puts his hand back in his coat pocket where his gun is. Puts his hands up again, puts his hands back into his coat pocket, turns toward a police officer, and is shot. Days earlier on television, he said that he would be killed before he went to prison. And these right-wing idiots want to call him a martyr. All Trayvon Martin was doing was walking to his dad's house when a pinhead named Zimmerman thought he looked out of place and killed him. I guess that's okay. Every other case of police activity against unarmed black people, oh yeah, no problem there. That's police just doing their job. Leroy Finicum is no hero. Leroy Finicum was a deadbeat who didn't want to pay his ranching fees, didn't want to pay his grazing fees. And you bitch about socialism. No, he's no martyr. He was a criminal. He was an armed and dangerous criminal who told the world that he would go down fighting. And he did. Good as his word. Now, I guess there are, 4 people left up there at that little Oregon compound? And I believe the police tactic now is to just kind of starve them out. That's probably the way to do it, I think.
Got something on your mind? An axe to grind? A bone to pick? A confession, perhaps? Get on the Cheddar phone right now at 414-501-4003. Dial carefully. 414-501-4003. Now, more of your minimum daily requirement of hot, melted goodness. Your midday hot cheddar injection.
Are you planning to make a bet on the Super Bowl this year? The Denver Broncos versus the Carolina Panthers. I don't even know who the favorite is. Once the Packers were eliminated, I'm done. I mean, I might watch the Super Bowl. I might, just tune in to see the spectacle. But I certainly wouldn't bet on it. And I'm hoping that the Carolina Panthers win because I'm an NFC guy. And the whole Peyton Manning gonna win the Super Bowl thing. I mean, stop it. Just stop it. But apparently there may be more writing on the Super Bowl than just possession of the Lombardi Trophy. On today's, by the way, this is from our friends at rightwingwatch.org. They're a project of the People for the American Way. On today's prophetic perspective on current events, Rick Joyner talked about a prophecy delivered by evangelist Bob Jones, who, according to Joyner, declared years ago that a Super Bowl victory by the Carolina Panthers would be a sign of the start of the Third Great Awakening. Forget for a moment that Jones had once been removed from ministry for, among other things, sexually abusing women. He served as a spiritual mentor to Joyner and was highly regarded as a prophet by many in his movement. As we said, Carolina's gonna... I imagine they're the favorite. I don't really know. They're going to play in the Super Bowl Sunday, but Joyner recounted how Jones had not only prophesied the team's creation in North Carolina, but he also foresaw that their first Super Bowl win would signal a nationwide awakening and movement of God, just as last year's Super Bowl victory by the New England Patriots was also a sign from God.
But one of the things that was directly related to our city, but also I think reflects on the whole nation, the U.S. especially, was that when our Carolina Panthers won the Super Bowl, that this is a time when, major revival, awakening, moves of God are going to break out in America. But he calls me, he says, the Black Panthers are coming to Charlotte. And I said, what does that mean? And he wasn't sure what it meant. I said, it sounds like an attack. He said, well, it may be. I don't know. But they're coming to the lumber yard in Charlotte. I said, really? So anyway, that's all he said. I didn't have anything more, but it stuck out. Several years later, I believe that was 1988 or early 1989 when he told me that. Several years later, we get this professional football team, this NFL team. They name them the Panthers. Their panther is a black panther. And they build the stadium on the old lumber yard downtown. And so we knew there was a prophetic destiny to this team. And afterwards, Bob got many other details about this. And some other people did too that I thought were remarkable and accurate, how many of the ups and downs that this team would go through would be teachings for us, and the ups and downs that many in the body of Christ here are going through and things like that. And some of them just were... It's like some of the things that team was going through was absolutely incredibly accurate parallel of some of the things we were going through at times. And it was a teaching for us. So, it kept our attention and interest. But when they went to the Super Bowl once over 10 years ago, we thought this is it. We're, revivals break out in America. Well, they didn't win. And listen, I'm doing this program before the Super Bowl. They haven't won it yet. But if they do, to me, it is a very definite marker of something remarkable breaking out. This year, Bob foresaw that when the Kansas City Royals won the World Series again was when this great outbreak is going to happen. And, of course, they won the World Series again this year, first time in 30 years since 1985. Well, that really got our attention. And we said, okay, now if the Panthers win this year, we know it's all hands on deck. And we are going to see the outbreak of I believe, the Third Great Awakening in America.
Hot Cheddar
Injection.
Well, it was about that time when Ted Cruz threw his hat in the ring that most of the sensible people decided that they didn't want any part of the nomination if it meant crawling in and mud wrestling with Ted Cruz. So, well, one by one they began to fall by the wayside. Each of them had a good reason for not running, of course.
I will never be the president. That is one fact that I'm fairly certain of. Not because I'm wrong on immigrants, moderate, civilized, mama's favorite son. I will never be the president. Write that down, carved in stone, in your memory push. Just because my name's Bush. Remember how popular my dad was when he won that first Gulf War? His popularity went through the floor because he raised taxes when he said he would never raise taxes, but he did because it was the right thing to do. And then my developmentally disabled brother George W. leapfrogged ahead of me and pretty well screwed up politics for the rest of my family for the next few decades by starting a war we had no business fighting against an enemy that was no threat to us. Remember that? I sure do. I was governor of Florida, did a good job, I'm told, with that I agree. I would make a decent president, not a nutcase or some wingnut extremist. But I'll never be the president, take that right to the bank in a locker push. Just because my name is Bush.
Picture yourself at a candidates forum somewhere in New Hampshire or Iowa State Fair. Somebody speaking, you can't help but notice the man with the fiberglass hair. Wispy gold tendrils all shiny and clean, lacquered on top of his hair. Look for some pattern to show how it's combed, and there's none. Trump will save the nation with his hair. Trump will close the border with his hair. Trump will build a huge wall with his hair. Watch him from somewhere up there in the cheap seats as Donald lays out all his dim-witted schemes. Everyone's blinded, the glare from the stage lights reflected in bright amber beams. Riveted by the impossible squawk that seems to have a life of its own. Trying your best to make sense of his words, but there's none. Trump will save the nation with his hair. Trump will close the border with his hair. Trump will build a huge wall with his hair. It'll be huge. Picture yourself as you stare in amazement. He's so out in front that it hardly seems fair. Suddenly someone is standing behind you, the man with the fiberglass hair. Trump will save the nation with his hair. Trump will close the border with his hair. Trump will build a huge wall with his hair. Trump will save the nation with his hair. Trump will close the border with his hair. Trump will build a huge wall with his hair. Trump will save the nation with his hair. Trump will close the border with his hair. Trump will build a huge wall with his hair.
Hot Cheddar
Injection.
Well, we're gonna put a bow tie on this monkey. Send it on its way. Hope you enjoyed the show. I hope to get better at this as I try to regain my chops at doing a talk show. It would help to get phone calls, but I guess we got to let people know that we exist first, right? Yeah, okay. We'll do this again tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, noon on the Pacific Coast, and of course, 2 p.m. here in God's country, as you line up for your hot cheddar injection. Yes, what a friend we have in cheeses. If you missed any or all of this show, you can catch it on the website galleryofOddcasts.com. That's galleryofOddcasts.com. All one word. We'll have it posted up there before you know it. Of course, Spreaker will keep a copy of it as well and probably be on television at some point. We'll get together tomorrow and talk about the Iowa caucuses, the winners, the losers, the also-rans, and what have you. I'm Bill Schmalfeld. Have a wonderful day, and try not to caucus in your pants if you don't mind. It's a terrible mess.